war, and only the Security Council can revive it. 1441 doesn't have an automatic mechanism, and therefore you need a new resolution. In fact, they went back for a new resolution, so Tony Blair at least felt that in Britain you had to represent the case as if you needed a new resolution. They just didn't get it. Now, the contrary case, and I have to look at my notes because I have to remember the numbers, which are many. The contrary cases that you argue on the basis of Resolution 678, 686, and 687, which imply that the original Gulf War, the ceasefire, and then the conditions of the ceasefire are such that if Iraq violates the conditions of the ceasefire, the war can be recommenced. This, I think, is the argument. The problem with it is that 686 has such a clause, but 687 clearly supersedes it, and all the countries voting for it, without at that time even being negated by the United States, indicate that the only reasons that some of them are voting for it is because it no longer has that particular proviso. So there is no automatism until 1441, and then 1441, with the exception of the United States, no one declares that it has any kind of automatism. In fact, Russia, France, and China declare immediately after the vote that the only reason they voted for it, they are two countries with veto power, is because there is no automatism. So you need a new resolution. They don't go back for it. Well, this sounds like absurd legalism, and I agree that if I was that Belgian or Canadian general in Kigali, and somebody was worrying about these numbers here in California or in New York, and people are being massacred there, that would be truly absurd, right? Because on some level you have to act, and you know, if enough people are being killed, I don't even care about unilateralism. I have to say that unilateralism doesn't frighten me under all possible circumstances. Okay. But the point is that this is not the situation at the moment of the outbreak of the Iraq War, and so you could actually get a resolution, and in fact. The problem is that the American government not only doesn't want a resolution, but a significant part of the American government wants the war precisely to discredit the whole UN process. I mean, this is a significant part of the motivation of the Cheney part, and Cheney says so over and over again, of that part of the American policymaking apparatus. It's true that there are also people in the State Department who value international law more than he does. But I mean, you know, this is not Chris Hitchens' war. But as far as Cheney's war, and as far as the war of many of the neoconservative intellectuals, which is not exactly the same thing, is concerned, this war is as much a war against international law as it is against Saddam. So for them, the fact that there is no legal justification for it is not a problem. It's actually a good thing, because you have to discredit precisely these mechanisms and replace them by something else. We'll see what that's going to be.
I can't wait to the end for this, because it has to follow on. I hope I didn't even sound as if I was accusing you of absurd legalism. I think the etiquette of this is very important. For example, it was very hard to be sure that the Anglo-American no-fly zone enforcement that protected northern and southern Iraq from the renewal of Saddam's attentions really was established by a UN resolution in its continuation. It seems to me quite possible that it was not, but nor was it condemned by any resolution, nor was it illegal. That's a narrow but deep difference, and I think it's well worth observing. I think that if we can all design alternative wars, plausible ones they'd better be, I think the President's speech to the UN on the September 11th, 2002, calling attention to the extraordinary thesaurus of unenforced and ignored and flouted resolutions on Iraq, recalling the UN to its duty, which it agreed it had neglected, which is why the inspectorate in its very weak form was returned to the country. I'm going to do inspections at the end, but this is just for now. Why everyone said, yes, okay, Mr. President, you're right about this. We really have neglected this. We must send the inspectors back in. If they'd further said, look, you're right in what else you say about the regime, we have let down the Iraqi people, and we have let ourselves be insulted by the Iraqi regime. Let us all agree to cooperate in moving Iraq into the post-Saddam era. Let's not say liberation, let's just say helping Iraq into the post-Saddam era. What will it take to recuperate the economy What will it take to repair the damage done by the sanctions? What will it take to identify the victims and try the war criminals? How will we get this done as a community? It was open to every member state of the UN, including all members of the Security Council, to say that, and they didn't, with the exception of the government of the United Kingdom. In fact, two of them, as we now know, as we knew then actually, but as we've now since had confirmed from captured documents of the Iraqi cabinet, repeatedly gave assurances to Saddam Hussein that no UN resolution could ever harm him. This is not the behavior of a responsible member state of the Security Council, I'm sorry to say, to be giving private assurances to a dictator that he need not worry about any action from the United Nations and that they can guarantee that this is so. That's a scandal. So is the current situation in Darfur, much worse than a scandal. But on this occasion, we've decided to follow the path laid down by Kofi Annan and the admirers of the UN procedure. And I hope everyone's extremely happy with what's eventuated.
But my question is, what resolutions did he really flout? Because the only thing you can say he flouted was kicking out the inspectors. Because in fact he did disarm. I mean, we now know he actually did.
We know he did not.
Well, we do know he has, because he doesn't have any. He didn't have any, and now we are sure of that.
We are not.
1441, it's true, he kicked out the inspectors, but once he let them in, he flouted no Security Council resolutions whatsoever. He was in full compliance. Israel is not in full compliance of many Security Council resolutions. I hate to say, because, you know, I was mildly Zionist at one point myself. But Israel is in full violation of many Security Council resolutions. Saddam, it looked like he was, but with this very complicated and stupid game that he was playing, actually it turns out he was not. And with 1441, he actually let them back, and then he certainly was not. He was not flouting anything, the poor guy.
Well, it takes a lot to make me cry, and I'm trying to summon as much sympathy for him as I can. But, but you're quite simply wrong on the facts. It seems to me the Iraqi government was required to give a list of what it held in point of weaponry, banned weaponry.
But how can you give a list if you don't have any?
It gave this list. It gave this list. We still have. Right. I could give you a copy of what it claimed to have. There's been no accounting to this day by the Iraqi government of what it did with what was on that list. We haven't found it. I'd love to know. But at no point, did the Iraqi government come in?
Dick Cheney.
At
You're the
no
last one who
point
thinks
were they in,
at
no point were they in compliance with the letter of the
Gentlemen, I have these really nice questions that I wrote.
You're the only one,
I'm quite proud of them.
Who thinks that you're going to find them.
I don't think we're going to find them. I'd love to know what happened to them, though.
You're the same way with the Al-Qaeda connection. Even Dick Cheney